Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Awaken the World. Today we present an answer to one of our group member questions, and the discussion is a sense of wholeness. Nice to see you all this morning. Yeah, I'm looking a little bit scruffy. Been working outside a lot the last 2 days, trying to slowly put our yard back together and do some more work on the pond and turn it back into that beautiful. Well, we're working on turning it into that beautiful space that we want to feel, kind of like a holy place. I've always viewed where you are that it's necessary to turn it into a holy space, to really feel comfortable there and to be able to recharge and relax and remind yourself and remember yourself and put yourself all back together again. It's really important to have that space. And if you're in the position where you don't have a home for that space and you're living out of your car or in a tent or something else, Mother Nature, when I was living homeless, I would stay in the woods. And for me, it was the woods. It was just beautiful. So we're going to start, and this came up from one of our users, one of our group members. I really don't like the term user, actually, and we're going to never say that word again. Because we are all members of the same group, and it doesn't matter whether you're a member of Awaken the World or Wake the Planet or Tom's Tigers Are Us. It just doesn't really matter, okay? At the end of the day, we are part of one big group, one big family, one big collective, and it begins with our families, our communities, our countries, our world, the whole of the human race. And we have to learn to take all those boundaries off, okay? We really do. And we have to be able to look into the eyes of another and truly see ourselves, to see God looking back at us. And I admit there's times when I fall down at that miserably, and it's okay. It's about growth. It's about evolution, not blame, but responsibility. So the group member had asked, how do I feel, and I'm paraphrasing a little, but how do I feel the sense of completeness and fullness in myself? Often daily, I feel very alone. I've struggled to maintain relationships, and family is difficult. And I'm going to try to answer that question because, as I said, when I'm written something or we speak face to face, I can instantly connect with the, feeling state of the person, the vibrational state in which they actually wrote it. And I could tell that there's a little bit of a wistfulness and a sense of struggle with this one, with this group member. That they struggle, and I have to tell you this. And again, without releasing the person's identity, because they have been contacting me through Messenger. This person is making wonderful strides forward. They are walking through their fear, even though they're afraid. And I want you to remember this, to speak your truth, to live your truth, even when your hands are trembling, even when there's a big piece of your being that's scared to death. That is true courage. That is living. You're right out there on the edge of your own growth, your own expansion. And yeah, it's exhilarating and it's scary. It's like being on the best carnival ride ever. A brand new ride that looks so fast and so dangerous, and you're not really sure why you're stepping into it, but at the same time, you want to do it. And I see this group member as I see many of our group members walking through their fears, beginning to regain their own power. I guess we'll turn this question right around, and I will ask it to myself then. How do I feel the sense of completeness and fullness in myself? How does Garen do it? And, this isn't necessarily fair in some ways, because as I said, each person's truth will be their own truth. Hello, Debbie. Nice to see you today. We weren't sure whether you were going to come on or not. So, Debbie, I do want to ask you, we were talking about you were considering taking a sabbatical. Did the sabbatical work out? I'm so curious. So how do I personally feel that sense of completeness and fullness in myself? And we're going to talk about a number of things that come into play, okay? One of the first one is the realization that wholeness is our original state of being. You know, we are whole when we're born. Everything we need, everything we're here to do, all that power, all that strength, all that wisdom. Oh, Debbie, that is just the most wonderful thing to hear. Yay! Kelly's here too. It looks like she's going to make a comment. She's over at the other computer. But that's just awesome, you know. Wow, good for you. All of a sudden, a little bit of freedom. Awesome you. Sorry, Debbie, I think my wife just called you a yak. A female yak. Oh, yes. Okay, that makes a little more sense. Yeah, it's okay. She doesn't mean any harm. Oh, that's so wonderful, Debbie. I'm tickled. That's awesome. Man, oh man, having that opportunity to take a break and refocus and choose for yourself, that's exciting. So we so have your back, Debbie, all the time. I've meditated about it. Kelly and I have talked about it. We've kept you in our prayers and our thoughts, and yeah, freedom. And I'll tell you, girl. Once you get a taste of your own power, once you get a taste of making your own choices and living in your own power, things are just going to start to steamroll for you. You know, have that faith. It really will. You're going to find whole new worlds opening up. And go with your gut. You have this wonderful intuition within you that speaks to you all the time. And the more you pay attention to it, the easier the ride gets. It really does. So our original state of being is wholeness. This is the state of being that we are. Everything else on top of that are the lies that we've been programmed with, and the lies that we've accepted about ourselves, about our littleness, about our weakness, about our incompleteness. And, you know, and I know that a lot of the people here who are part of the group have been exposed or grew up in fundamental Christian backgrounds or you know, Christian faiths of some sort. And already you have problems. Especially, you know, if you came out of the Catholic faith, and that's where I came out of. And boy, I mean, with Catholics, it's all about repentance. I mean, it really is. I mean, you're a sinner, you're born a sinner, and there's a good chance you're going to die one, and all you can do is try to take all the steps in between. You know, I can't tell you how many rosaries I wore out. Now I prefer to wear out a mala. You know, the Buddhist one instead. I find it much better, much more meaningful. So we are this whole being, and you know, there's a number of things that our society programs us with, and we're going to talk about quite a few of them here because a lot of them do come into play. And the first thing is if that, oh, Sue's here, awesome. Love is the glue. Yes, it is. Yeah. That bindos. You know, that's funny you say bindu because, you know, if that was a U instead of an O, and I know it's supposed to be an S, we'd be talking about the bindu point. right? And that's that, if you were to look on the screen, that spiral, well, if there were a dot in the center of the spiral, that would be known as the Bindu point. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Bindu point too. Funny you brought that up sort of by accident, because there are no accidents and it comes into play. So one of the first lies that we're sold, and this lie applies to the female of our species, is that you could never be complete without a man. You know, your success is getting married and having babies, and then being the glue that holds your family together. And, we would think that we have changed from that mentality over the last 50, 60 years. But in reality, it is quite intact. And it is most intact within religious circles. Why? Because the Bible has been manipulated to provide control over women right from the get-go. Eve wasn't a whole woman by herself. She had to be made out of a rib out of Adam. She was supposed to be subservient to him. And it's very funny how a lot of people miss in the Bible the words after that about the way a man is supposed to treat a woman. And, at the end of the day, unfortunately, we use this in our society, and men use this in our society, and institutions fall into it because they are driven by people. Where you are made to believe that if you're not married off by a certain age, that if you haven't had children by a certain age, that if you haven't completed this, and this on the list, then you're either behind the times, or you're old news, an old maid, or out to pasture, or heading in the wrong direction, or sliding down a slippery slope, whatever you want to call it. It's all lies. It's all about controlling women. It's all about controlling that. The only way to say it is that pregnant power within them, and it has nothing to do with pregnancy. Yeah, exactly, Sue. After when you come into your own, it is not a lot of women who can do that. There's a lot of women who simply can't. They have to go out and find another man right away. They can't stand to be alone, and they've been trained into it. And it's very hard when you're in the situation, when you're the one who's feeling the lack of wholeness, to understand that it's a lie you've been sold. That alone is not possible. You literally have access to the entirety of that sea of consciousness at all time. And it begins with a few surface things that we can do. And we're going to talk about the deeper things after, but let's talk about some of the physical things, some of the surface things. Because, we live in this illusion we would call Maya. And as I keep repeating, this illusion is very real. And if you don't believe how real it is, go step in front of a bus. Don't tell them that I sent you. So on the surface, we can take some very real actions. One of those actions is we can look for meaning within our own lives according to our definition. And, in the case of Debbie, for example, I know Debbie is a teacher, and I'll tell you, there is profound meaning, and I have so much respect for you, Debbie. I mean, people who teach, you really have your hands on the future of our entire species as a teacher. And, it doesn't matter how twisted the system is. It doesn't matter how sleeping the people around you are, Debbie. The fact that you have been a teacher, the fact that you gave so many years doing that is awesome. And whatever path you choose going forward, whether it be to keep going into teaching again, or to look in other aspects of your life, or changing what you teach, for example, You know, for some reason, I kind of pictured you taking off maybe to Thailand to teach English for a year. You'll fall in love with the people, and I'll tell you, they would fall in love with you. You have so many options open. It's amazing. Sue says she doesn't even have goldfish. Yeah, and they're not that good at looking after people. You know, they're nice to look at in the evening, that's for sure. So the first thing we can do superficially on the surface is we can look at our existence and see the meaning that's in it already. And we can choose new meaning. And, you know, beginning to find meaning, to feel that sense of wholeness, it doesn't have to be anything profound. It could be a hobby. It could be a 1-hour volunteer session a week. There are an innumerable number of possibilities here, but one of the first things to do is find meaning with yourself. And the second, of course, is to share. Now, this is a big one, and you know, it's a big one on the feminine side especially, although more and more I find men, although, you know, we have to be clear about that, and I do apologize to the odd man out there who is not one of these, and in my estimation so far it's been odd, okay? But the one thing about a woman is a woman will look for another partner. And in the, quite frankly, dysfunctional state that our society and our belief systems and the way we've treated women over the last couple thousand years has left the feminine in, I am amazed still to this day that women will go out to look for a partner. And you see men in their dysfunction, they're looking for their mommies. They're not looking for a partner. And this is where so many women and men come into relationships together that end up going south so fast. The woman is codependent and looking for a mate, a partner, someone to share with, someone to love, someone to nurture and be loved and nurtured. The man, on the other hand, he's looking for his mother. He wants mommy to take care of him again. There's a profound difference there. And for the feminine, yeah, exactly. Debbie mentioned you were born in Singapore. I mean, oh man, that would be fun for you. I mean, nothing like getting out of the Western world for a little bit to straighten you right up. I got to tell you, it really does. So it's true. Most men are looking for their mother, and this is a reality, and we have witnessed it firsthand, and I have witnessed it myself in the past over and over and over again. You know, and you'll notice it comes out very much even in language. Here, honey, let me help you make the bed. Which is really, Mom, I'll help you make it. Like it was your job to make my bed, and now I will help you make my bed. And that's only one very tiny, very, very simple example, okay? So the other thing that can bring that wholeness or that sense of wholeness is the sharing. And, you know, again, this is a touchy issue because, as I've said before, I really don't need a human being. And exactly, a lot of times they don't even realize it's happening, Sue. You're absolutely right. You know, the men aren't aware that's where they've been stuck. You know, they're still that boy. You know, I have said this over and over again. I have no need for another human being. I really don't. And there's a very good reason for that, aside from the fact that I'm just masquerading as a human being. But the other reason is I have full awareness of my wholeness. I have no limits on my consciousness. My consciousness isn't confined to this body space anymore. You know, like I say when I do these videos, I'm only partially here. I often go out for a ramble and allow my higher self Because the whole system is automatic anyways. It's a mistake to think that that voice in your head has to be involved at all, because it doesn't. Everything happens all by itself. Everything isn't happening. It is indeed, as Jim Carrey said, a bunch of happenings. And there's a fragrance of flowers in the air. So when you get used to that, you will come to the understanding that, you can be here but not here, in this world but no longer of it, And I only call this planet home because it's convenient right now. And I can't find where I parked that damn cloaked ship of mine. So, when you reach a certain spot, you will be quite capable, a certain level of awareness, you will be quite capable of being all alone for as long as it takes, as long as you wish. Now, there is a difference. I love sharing with people. I absolutely love it. And in the sharing, we can uplift ourselves at the same time too. So when it comes to sharing, we can look at, perhaps a volunteer opportunity, getting involved with a group of like-minded people, starting a group of like-minded people. Sue says, when I told my first husband, I need you, I want you. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of women who marry children, unfortunately, even though there appears to be an adult male standing there. A lot of times there's really not. It's just a body. And I'm beating on guys a little bit because unfortunately I've seen a lot of it lately, and there are some really good guys out there too. That's to be sure. And there are some women who have some issues as well. And this is part of the experience and the magnificence of life in all its expressions. So Debbie says she feels so far from that. How did you get there? Not needing others, content alone. Debbie, I'm going to give you the honest way that I did it. And, you're going to find this a little tough. I forced it on myself. I knew that in order to become content with myself, to quit struggling, I had to give myself no choice. So I literally set out on foot, alone, by myself. I lived in my tent. I spoke very little to people as I went from place to place and gathered the food I needed, and I really did force it on myself. I spent months in monasteries where I would be left alone except for meals, and a lot of times in silence. A lot of them there was no talking, no vocalization at all. And I stayed with it until the dawning realization came upon me. And for some people, Debbie, that is the road they have to take. You have to force that isolation on yourself completely. Not the sort of isolation of, work and society and everything else, but actually isolate yourself. A couple weeks in a cabin somewhere, a couple weeks out in the woods, out in the jungle. Allow yourself to find yourself, because in this society, in this mess of our lives, we never really get the time for our minds to settle down enough. And that's exactly, I shared a post just moments before we started the video, and it was this reporter who wrote about basic income and about how people would just stop working, and he cited a poor example, and there were a lot of other issues with the article. But at the end of the day, the power and control structure on this planet wants as many people possible working for just survival. Why? So you have no time and energy to find out who you truly are and retake your own power. And if you don't like that method, Debbie, then the other method is following through slowly with some of these things. So, the second point would be finding a group or starting a group of like-minded people. And if you haven't tried solitude by yourself, do try it. Honestly, Debbie, even a week of solitude. If you're comfortable, there's many Catholic, in convents and nunneries, since you're a woman, where you can stay for next to nothing, and you can literally spend a week in solitude or 2 weeks in near solitude. And I know it sounds like it may be tough and scary, but facing yourself, truly facing yourself, you have walked through taking a break from your teaching job, and you're doing it. You have that courage in you, Debbie. We've seen it, and we know it's there. Take this next step. Give yourself a week of solitude, a week of just you, with no one around, no one to talk to. Put down the books, put down Garen's videos. and just let yourself be for a whole week, and you will find that there's so much of you there. Oh, hello, Cindy. I didn't see you were there. Hi and bye. Running late at doctor's office. Okay, love to you too. We hope everything goes well. And, if you give yourself this week or 2 weeks, if you can do it, you will find out so much about yourself. And you will become not stronger for it. You will regain the strength you already possess for it. Back to the other methods. So, superficially, we can find meaning within our existence. We can look to share our lives with others in a state of, but not in a state of codependence. So when I say that, I mean start with a group. Form a group. Be the catalyst for a community. But be wary of why you're forming the community, okay? Like, sharing is great as long as you desire to share. But if you need to share, that is coming from an untrue place of your existence. And don't get me wrong, I love sharing with people. I love a good interaction with someone. I really do. But at the same time, I could do without it. And the way to do without it, if you want to throw yourself into the frying pan, is to segregate yourself from the rest of the world. Even just for a few weeks. It'll teach you so much about yourself, and you'll come out of it so much stronger. This sense of wholeness, this sense of being okay by ourselves, not possible, is all about this idea that we're somehow not complete. And you are complete. You are a whole being. Everything that you need to live out your existence joyfully is within you. It's our own blocks to it. And the only way we can continue to go around those blocks is to continue to push our way through them. And I know it doesn't sound easy sometimes. But, as I've spoken about before, we have a lifetime of conditioning, in many cases, 30, 40 years of conditioning in the wrong direction. Be gentle with ourselves. We're not going to change these things overnight. Although it's possible. Yeah, remote mountain monasteries. And you don't even have to get that remote, believe it or not. I mean, you can be, that's a beautiful thing about a nunnery or a convent or a monastery is you can be 20 kilometers outside the city, and within its walls, nothing else exists. And don't ever deny the value of such thing. The contemplation and meditation and time you will spend reflecting on yourself, the biggest wall between us and realizing our full state of completedness is this concept that we don't want to face ourselves, that we're afraid to face what's really there. And facing what's really there is, yeah, my home was my monastery. Exactly, Sue. And that's what I was speaking at the beginning. Make a holy space for yourself. And Debbie, that's a great idea maybe for you too. If you can pick a room, if you can't make it the whole place, but you can pick a room even and make that room your monastery. Make that room your space and come to that space. And you will find over time that that space itself will begin to build this positive resonance of just wholeness. Allow yourself to have that time to be a human being. Most of us have worked for so long and so hard and for so many years that we don't actually know what it's like to be a human being. And indeed, you have this opportunity, and this sabbatical can help with that. Moving on. The biggest thing that we need to really understand about this, okay, is that our sense of wholeness or our lack of wholeness stems from our own head. It is our own imaginations. We imagine ourselves not complete. And I know it's hard to get a grasp on this, but you have to understand that anything you perceive is actually your imagination. You are taking in stimuli in one form or another, and you are making a determination on it, and your perception, your imagination is deciding what to feel about it. All the time. Now, we can let those decisions happen unconsciously. Exactly, Debbie. So these ideas that we need someone or words like other half are just all false beliefs from prevailing culture. That is exactly right. We have no need for another when it comes to that sort of fulfillment. But make no mistake, as a species, we're wholly dependent on each other for that which physically keeps us alive. We must all work together. And understand the fine difference here. Needing someone and desiring to be with someone to share your life with are two totally different sides of a coin. The need isn't love. The need is you give me that and I'll give you this. It's actually I trade you, not I love you. Whereas the honest and open desire to share yourself with someone else, that's where the real lies. That's where the honest desire to share and the joy in the sharing comes in. Anything less than that and it will turn dysfunctional. And Sue, you hit the nail on the head again. They're just lies that we've told ourselves and lies that we've been told and lies that we take on. We are not, and these states that we find ourselves in where we think we need someone, and this sense of unworthiness, my life's incomplete, I'm not whole. One of the first places that stems from is from family. And it's not intentional. It's not that our mothers and our fathers, in their wisdom, decided to burden us with this sense of unworthiness or that our lives are not successful unless. It's not their fault. They bought into whatever the prevailing culture was telling them at the time and what they were told by their parents. This is what it means in the Bible when it says the sins of the fathers are visited upon the sons even until the nth generation, As long as we're carbon copying what we know onto someone else and then putting them out there into the world, we're going to keep producing carbon copies. That's not why we're here. We are here to evolve. We are here to grow. And the ideas from even yesterday are no longer as valid today when the new ideas are coming. So yes, Debbie, let go of the idea that you need someone. and instead focus on being a whole being yourself. And in that wholeness, I will promise you that when you come to that place of your own inner power again, when you stop minding what other people's opinions of you are, when you stop living in any idea of guilt or fear, somebody who's also ready will see your light and will be drawn to your light. And in that, you will truly find someone who you are meant to be with. And we're going to talk about, meaning to be with someone and this whole twin flame idea as well as part of another group member comment here in just a minute. But I do want to finish up with this. So Sue had said, you were riddled with false guilt and shame, such a relief. Yeah, exactly. And this false guilt and shame is put on children, especially girls, over and over and over again. Especially if you're from a fundamental Christian background. And there's scads of psychological issues we could talk about that come up from that. But the bottom line is this, your family... And I'm going to go out on a limb here, and there's some people aren't going to like it maybe, but it's the truth, okay? Family, let's be clear what family really is. Family is a label that describes usually the woman whom which you were born out of into this world, okay? That which gave birth to you, and other siblings that were also given birth by that woman. And then the male who donated the sperm. That's what family is. Everything else on top of it is definition. We get caught up in this idea, well, that's my family. Why doesn't my family love me? Why doesn't my family care for me? At the end of the day, there are no requirements on family for any of that. And as I've told Kelly, the concept that they're my children, my grandchild, is all ego. Kelly hit it closer to being on the head. Isn't everyone family here on this earth? Yeah, except I don't want to use the word family because you know what? I see way too much of the way family treats family. We are all part of one community. We are all each other's brother and sister. Maybe if we look at it that way, not family, but brothers and sisters. Underneath the watchful eye of all of creation. Your family, if you must use the word, I use the word, and understand, I lost all of my family by the time I was 17 years old, okay? I lived most of my life with no family. My family has always been my tribe. Whoever the people are in my life at the time who accept me openly. Whoever those people are who I know I can go to when times are tough, not just when the sun is shining. Those are my family. The people in this group who've reached out to me and said, help me. Walk me through some things. Those are my family. The guy who knocks on my door and says, hey, I want to leave you this new recycling paper because our recycling policies are changing. And I know you guys always do a good job with your recycling. That's part of my family. Whoever's around you at the time, you literally are kin to them. They are kin to you. Don't get caught up on the woman that coughed you out or the father that was there to contribute to the process. It's way too easy. And, ego is a fearful and needy illusion. And unfortunately, we keep building it. We keep buying into it. Our whole society programs us for it until we run into a place where even today in this modern day and age, we have, young girls who still think the only thing they need to do is find a man and get married, and that's success. And we have to be crystal clear. This isn't about what you choose to do. That's fine. If your choice and your version of success is finding a man and getting married, and you're doing so openly and honestly as a complete being and whole in yourself, and you have made the decision and you have looked at where your ideas come from and you've found the ideas of your parents wanting and you've made your own choice for yourself and stepped into your freedom, then go ahead. You don't need my blessing. You're already blessed. What we're talking about is the difference between need and want. And this is a big one. It really is. Okay? Needs are really only food, clothing, and shelter. And believe it or not, a lot of people get by with limited versions of those three. Our desires for ourselves, we have to look at our desires and as the song in Enigma says, be mindful of your desires, you're playing with fire. Are the desires real? Because when we say, well, I would like to not feel alone, what are we saying to the other side of that coin? I would like meaningful relationship, perhaps. Meaningful relationship starts with ourselves. It starts with that honesty of being. It starts with stepping through those things we fear. It starts with putting our faith that there must be a reason why I am here right now. We as human beings, and we're talking more about the feminine right now than the masculine, okay? But we as human beings, and especially the feminine, have for thousands of years, especially women, been sold this idea that you cannot survive on your own, you are not complete by yourself, you are not whole, you're in danger. The list goes on and again. And you know what? It's simply not true. Women coming into their own power, is what this planet needs more and more and more. And when I say coming into their power, I mean coming into their power as women, not as man's version of a woman, but as what you define a woman as for yourself, what the feminine means to you, and defining it in that way. How do you feel a sense of wholeness? It's not easy. You just have to accept that it's there. It always begins with meditation. It always begins with going within. It always begins with the understanding that there is not a single thing in your existence that can happen external to you. Everything is processed through this beautiful mind we've been given, this consciousness. Becoming whole, feeling that sense of wholeness, is in the understanding that every step you take, life is opening up to you. Every step you take forward, life is preparing the pathway for you. And one of the greatest reasons that we cannot be with another is that the universe in its wisdom knows that in the current codependent state we are in, to be with another would leave us open to be abused and to be belittled in some way and to be harmed. You see, that sea of creation, it wants the best for you. By default, its desire is the best for you. That's why the lessons always come slowly. That's why the pains always start out quietly. And the suffering always starts out with like little needle pokes. Until, like I said, finally Mother Nature has to get out that big titanium baseball bat. So take the time to examine your own existence. take the time, especially if you have some freedom now, give it a chance. Get away for a week. Spend a week in solitude. Get to know thyself again. The kingdom we all look for is not external to us. It does not lay in another person. It lies within our own being. And when you find that, when you have meditated enough and reminded yourself enough and been consciously aware for a long enough period of time and started to grow and flower in your own journey, and Debbie, you're on your way. We know you are. This sabbatical is the start of it. When you take these steps, you will begin to shine that wonderful, unique gift that you are. And in those steps, in that shining light that you will become more and more and more as you free yourself from your fears and you free yourself from your sense that you're not enough, you are going to meet someone who will also be a whole being, and they will look at your light and you will look at their light, and the two of you will say, I would love to share my light with you. And you will be in a totally different relationship. Much love, Sue. Thank you. Bye for now. We'll see you later. And that's really about where it lies. There's not much else to talk about on this one today. I do want to talk briefly about the concept of twin flames, okay, and this whole idea of soulmates. And we have discussed this before. We need to be clear that there is no such thing as a soulmate or a twin flame unless you choose it. That's all I'm going to say on the subject. There's no universal setup where there is a single soul waiting for all creation just for you. There is no setup where there's a matching flame somewhere in the universe with your name on it. A twin flame or a soul you're meant to be with is a choice that only you and that other soul can make and decide on. And if the two of you choose it, so shall it be, as on earth as it is in heaven, until the end of all time. Or until you choose otherwise. And Debbie, much love to you. We are so happy for you. We look forward to hearing more about your adventure. And it sounds to us like life is starting to become more of an adventure for you. And again, good on you for taking the... To me, it's not a risk. I mean, for taking the necessary step for yourself. Now take another one. Little baby steps. It's not a race. You got all eternity for this. Much love. Namaste. And of course, have a wonderful, wonderful day.